How do you move yourself and your young family from one side of the world to the other and help everyone settle in? It is the biggest worry and anxiety for a lot of mums, myself included. Okay, I know how I will probably react to this move, but how will my kids? They don't really understand the full impact of what it's like to move 20 plus hours to the other side of the planet and not be able to have the same things that they're used to, be able to see their friends and their family, uprooting them from school, from childcare. In this video, I want to give you some of the best advice that I have implemented for myself and ultimately what I believe is helping both of my children, who are currently 6 and 2 years old, thrive in regional Western Australia, having just moved from the UK. If you are new here, my name is Maria and I am a millennial mum of 2. I'm also self-employed here in Australia. I post all about that journey. I share the ups, the downs, the reality. I ain't afraid to cry on YouTube, that's for sure. The first thing that I want to talk about is adapting to Australian culture and the lifestyle, particularly if you are like us and you move to a regional area, basically the countryside of Australia. I think that the biggest thing that mums need to understand, or people in general when they're moving to Australia, is it is massively different. I think when you come over here as a single person versus coming over here as a family as well. I met my husband when I came over to Australia. I went to Sydney 10 years ago. My experience in Australia when I met him versus now 10 years later with 2 children, all of these other responsibilities is vastly different. I also feel like when you go through that whole baptism of fire, when you become a mum and you go through labour and birth and raising children and everything else, that you as a person change so completely. And I fully think that my experience being here in regional Australia has been so different to when I was in Sydney, because I feel like I developed a lot of anxiety through having my first baby. The one thing that came to me was the Australian culture and all of the differences that came with that immediately felt like a threat to me when it came to the kids. I felt like I was on high alert constantly because I wanted to keep the kids safe. Even if there was no real threat, my body didn't feel that way. I constantly felt like there was a perceived threat. And that is what culture shock is. This immediate feeling when you come off the initial high of feeling isolated, feeling like everything is so different and you have very few points of references that your brain can cling to relate to feel safe, to feel comfortable. So for example, with the kids, it was like everything that they wanted to do, everything that they love to do and that they love to eat and interact with, all of a sudden felt like, you can't do that unless I'm with you, because I need to keep an eye on you. For example, our garden had these bushes around the perimeter of it, which looked absolutely fine. I said to Mikey, we need to dig up those bushes. And he was like, are you just being paranoid? I said, no, we need to dig them up. Lo and behold, found 2 baby snakes. Now that I've learned from speaking to pest control, snakes in gardens in Australia will run away from you as soon as they hear any noise. So it's best to make like a ton of noise if you're doing something like digging up a bush or you're in the garden, make a ton of noise. Having 2 kids that are constantly screaming laughing makes it so much easier, and they will try and get away from you rather than trying to attack you. But it is still that case of the kids are very curious. They literally, these baby snakes looked like worms to the kids. If they had saw that, we're getting a big playground out in the garden for them. If they had just saw that and we were indoors, try to pick them up. Same with spiders. In Western Australia, we have some of the most venomous snakes and spiders to humans. These things happen and the hospital is nearby. They have antidotes, they're trained in all of this. Of course they are. But for my kids who have never had to think about, is it okay for me to pick that up? They're very curious. These things are normal. There was a snake at Ella's school and they had to come and remove it because it was near where they had lunch / the girls' toilet. Ella was totally cool with it. She was like, oh yeah, mum, there was a snake. They had to come and take it away. We just had to eat lunch inside. It was fine. Again, like everything just felt like a threat. Just normal things like, can I just open the back door and let the kids run outside? Not right now, I can, until we've got all of the leaves sorted in the garden and then we know that it's safe. There's actually, since we've cleared everything out, we've had more birds in the garden. And that made me feel really good, because then I felt like, okay, well, we didn't have them when we moved in. Now, if they're coming, there must be a lack of predators in the garden, and they can sense that, which is really good. 8 weeks ago, I would not have been out in that garden putting leaves in a bin bag and cleaning the garden out, but I was stuck in, I was getting it done, because you just have to face your fears with these things, and then you very quickly realise it's not as bad as you thought it was, and actually a lot of it is just in your head. But again, that is part of culture shock, and that's a very normal experience. Like, for your skin to feel like it's crawling. Culture shock, Australian differences and what they think is normal, because it is normal here, but it's not normal in the UK. Keep reminding yourself, you're safe, your family are safe, you're going to be fine, and honest to God, see if someone did get bit, the hospital's around the corner. The next thing is healthcare in Australia. It might not be common knowledge to a lot of people, but especially if you're moving from the UK, and there are other countries that are included within this, but for the point of people coming from the UK to Australia, you are covered by Medicare, even if you are on a PR visa or a 482 visa, which is a temporary visa like the one that we're on. You will get access to Medicare. So when you get here, the first thing you should do is register online for a Medicare card. That will then get sent to your postal address. It takes a little while. We've not had ours in yet. We have our Medicare number, and the kids recently had to have some extra vaccinations, which I'll talk about in a second. Something that's worth noting is you will always get access to Medicare, and Medicare covers the cost of a lot of things, so you won't have to pay for things similar to the way that we would have done that in the UK. It's a reciprocal healthcare system. However, once you become a citizen, you would then have to pay for things like your medical, etc., because you wouldn't be covered in that Medicare system in the same way. So I've got some family that moved out here over 10 years ago, and they are now citizens, and they were saying to us, you could have a third baby right now and it wouldn't cost you a penny, but if we had a baby, it would cost us, because we're now citizens. And there's different healthcare systems and insurances that you can get. When you come over on a 482 visa like we have, one of the agreements or terms of conditions on your visa is that you get healthcare cover. Because we have that Medicare aspect, I would recommend, and this is what we've done, is just get the very basic healthcare that ticks off that requirement. It goes in like a tier system. The more you pay, the more cover you get. But Medicare, like I said, covers a lot of that for free. So there's really no point in paying all of that extra unless, you are used to coming from private healthcare. That's something that you want to continue here. So I would say just get the very basic healthcare, tick that box off. It's a couple $100 a month for the family, and then that's it. The next thing that I want to talk about is, like I said, the kids' vaccinations. So both of my kids have had all of their vaccinations up to date on the UK schedule. When we came over to Australia and I registered the kids at school and daycare, it was actually our daycare provider who asked us to have Axel's vaccinations verified by a doctor at the GP. So all I had to do was take a printout which I'd got from my GP doctor before moving over here, and I took that to the GP centre here and I asked them if they could verify it. They took a copy of that, they took a copy of the kids' passports, and then they sent that off to a doctor. That took about a week and a half, I think, for that to come back. They said that the kids needed 4 vaccinations each, which was 4 separate needles, 1 in each arm, 1 in each leg. 2 kids at the same time. It was a lot of tears. And then we went to the supermarket and bought them a ton of treats. So they were fine after that. But within those vaccinations, the only one that both of the kids hadn't had in the UK already was the chickenpox vaccine, because that is something that is given to kids here. I personally feel like it's a great thing to just get the kids vaccinated, and you can pay for that privately in the UK. But the other vaccinations that they got, the other 3, were top-ups of what they'd already had. We did have the thought process, should we have had the vaccinations before we came over? But we wouldn't have been able to get those top-ups because the UK just wouldn't have given us them. The kids weren't stopped going to school or daycare until they had the vaccinations. The school haven't even asked they asked for them in the application process, but they've never brought them up to say that, oh, is this verified? Has she got any additional? It was because I'd sent Axel's away that I just put Ella's in with that and found out that both of them needed these like top-ups, basically. I then asked for the schedule, which I'll put a link in the description so you can see what the Australian children's immunisation schedule is here. I think the next one's for Ella because she's 6. Her next vaccines will be in year 7. Axel's next vaccines will be when he's 4. The next thing is a village. Everyone got told that it takes a village. And then you realise that as millennials, it was the generation before us that they were the last ones who ever actually truly had a village with like the help of grandparents and things like that. Obviously not everyone. However, I certainly know for myself, I was raised by my grandparents a lot of the time. My husband also raised by his grandparents. So it's definitely, I feel like millennials are the first generation who are now realising actually we don't have this village that everyone told us that we should have to help us in motherhood. If you are like us moving to the other side of the world and you don't have your family and friends around you, the isolation certainly starts to really pick up. But also we felt like that so much more moving 2 hours away from Perth. It's a very small town feeling, and obviously within that has so many perks. How people are massively helpful here is something that I'll never forget. How amazing and how supportive this town has been for us. But that support network is something that you have to start to rebuild. And I definitely feel like if you are moving to a regional space like we are, people will help you and they will reach out to you. So if you're worried about making a move over and not having that support system, I would definitely say try not to fret about it too much. So the director of the daycare centre, her husband is working with Mikey at his school, and they've got a little girl who's the same age as Axel. So we got on amazing, becoming really great friends, and we're going to Caversham Wildlife Park with them at the weekend, and we've invited them round here to watch the footy on Friday, and I'm going to make my Jack Daniel's chicken for them. And it's just really nice that we've managed to find family unit like that, because I think when you're a family, it helps so much more when you naturally become friends with another family, because you feel like you can do all the same things, you're on a very similar schedule. Another thing that I've started to do, because Axel goes to daycare Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, on a Tuesday there is a play group, a kinder gym at one of the local primaries, and it's a gold coin donation, and then they give the kids a bowl of like a fruit salad with like 4 or 5 different fruits in. They put an obstacle course, like soft play with like a climbing frame and different things, and they do story time, and when they do the goodbye song, they have bubbles. First week that I went, immediately started talking to different people. We got each other's number, and she was like, oh, do you want to go for a coffee just now? I don't need to do anything. And it's just been really nice. And she also plays hockey here, and she was like, oh, why don't you come try hockey or netball and, you know, introduce yourself to other people, because sport is a massive thing in Australia in general, but like especially when you're in like a smaller area, then getting yourself into the community through sport is definitely like a recommended thing. So the sporting aspect, even if you're like myself who hasn't played sports since high school and you're like, oh, is sport really my thing? It's not necessarily about the sport. It can be about the sport, but the community, the socializing aspect is definitely the biggest thing about it. So have a look at your local area when you arrive and see what groups are about. You know, even for kids, there's like a dance class, there's swimming, which we're sorting out for Ella. So we're trying to all of us get into these sorts of things and meet people, build up that support network in that village. I think for me, I moved away from Scotland in 2012. I've been used to being away from my family and maybe only having like FaceTime contact or seeing them a couple of times a year. So for me, that move and that shock wasn't so big. What's really great with Mikey's work actually is within the Department of Education at his induction, they said that he gets 15 personal days a year. For example, this week I was very, very poorly and I was supposed to have Axel whilst and take it out of school, but I was just like, I felt so bad. I felt so unwell, and Mikey just called in. He said, listen, I need to look after Maria and take care of Axel, and they're so cool about it. They're so fine with it. Whereas in the UK, he had like 1 day off previous year, and the head teacher was like, are you aware of your absences? He's like, yeah, like I had 1 day off, like what do you want me to do about it? I was really unwell, like I couldn't, do you want me to come into the school and throw up everywhere? So in the UK, I feel like the mentality, especially for teachers, to ever take a day off is like sacrilege. But over here, they just get it, they just understand, they're okay with it, and those personal days actually go up the longer you're here. So I think it's after 10 years you actually get to be able to take a sabbatical, and or you're actually able to use certain days to only work like 3 or 4 day weeks. It's amazing, honestly, for that aspect. Mikey was like, wow, completely different to the UK. So that definitely has helped with the support system. Having Mikey's more laid back approach in teaching has helped already with us in this move. And I would definitely say that just getting yourself involved as much as you can, I wouldn't stress about it, especially if you're moving to a more regional area. Okay, so this second to last thing that I'm going to talk about is setting up your home. Now, the main thing that I have done since I got into Australia, actually, I started ordering all of these things because in Western Australia, it stands for wait a while. Delivery times certainly can feel like you're waiting forever. Is when you get here, think about if you're like, we're not moving into our house for like another 2 weeks, order your stuff. For us, we got everything delivered to Grace Removals Depot, and they then, because through the international teaching pool that we got sponsored through, they give you a second additional uplift. So they transported all of our things from the UK to Australia. And they also said, okay, if you want to get everything delivered to our depot, tell us when everything's arrived. We will then take that to your new house. So we didn't have to think about, oh, how do we get a bed delivered to like our hotel suite, for example. So that was something that we did, and I was very, very glad that we did that and that I ordered them basically the first week that we arrived, because it did take a while. And even though our house that you see here was delayed and wasn't ready for us immediately when it should have been, everything lined up. Like all of our stuff got delivered on the Thursday, we got the keys for our house on the Friday, and we only found out all of that was happening on the Wednesday. It couldn't have worked out better if it tried. But all of that wouldn't have arrived on time had I not done all of those orders basically the second I arrived in the country. Yeah. One thing that we've put a big focus on is what we've got here for the kids to do, because outside of these four walls, for example, there isn't the same things that they have been used to back in the UK, like going to soft plays or going to indoor like entertainment centres. For example, in Castleford in England, we used to go to Escape, and there would be like the arcades, the bowling, the cinema. There was like the skiing in there. Obviously, we don't have something like that here. So there's just little things like that that we were like, okay, how could we almost replicate some of that in our house so that the kids are still getting to do a lot of the activities that they really like. The cinema room is like a playroom. We're going to order the big sofa, which is like a water resistant fabric and everything, which is great for kids. And then we've got some IKEA Kallax storage boxes, TV on the wall, play mat, and I've ordered like some role play toys and things like that for them as well, because they really enjoy that. I also ordered a tough table for water play, sand. I got different sensory kits. I got loads of Play-Doh, paints. I got them an easel, which one side is a whiteboard and a roll of paper, and the other side is a chalkboard. Got jumbo chalks, like got all of that sort of stuff for them. We also bought them like scooters. We're going to get them a bike as well for their birthday. And then outside, we're ordering a big play frame with like monkey bars, slides, lookout kind of tower. And you know something, they're a lot cheaper here than they are in the UK. The one that we've seen is $850, which is about £425, and there is just no way that you would get a big wooden playground climbing frame for that in the UK. A trampoline. So these things are all on order, they're on their way, and the garden is so flat that all of that is just going to be perfect. Our friends are very kindly giving us an L-shaped outdoor seating area, and I've ordered like a rug to put down, like an outdoor rug, and just making it, obviously we're going to spend a lot of time outdoors, but just for that point that I said earlier, where I feel like I want to watch the children when they're out playing, just in case they come across anything, at least I'm there and not in the house pottering about and whatever else. So we just having that set up for us so that it's really nice that we can spend a lot of time outdoors. The kids have got what they can play with. It's starting to cool down, fingers crossed. So over the next few months, it's going to be like a perfect time for them to be outside, actually, where the sun's not too strong, because recently it's been 44 degrees and it's been too hot to function. Never mind play outside and jump on a trampoline and everything else. I don't want them to ever feel like they're missing something in the UK, because I want them to be able to settle in as much as they can, you know? And then if they're happy, I'm happy. I'll be a happy mama always when they're happy. Lastly, on the subject of setting up your home here, something that we had done was we had pest control come to the house. They treated the house for rodents, spiders, ants, cockroaches. What happens within that is they spray the perimeter of the house, and then for ants and spiders, they also put some bait traps, gels and sprays inside where we tend to see them a lot. Since we've had the house treated, we've not seen any, which is brilliant. Now, having the house treated for rodents was a big thing, because if there was anything on the perimeter, that is what would attract snakes. Now, given that we found some baby snakes outside, I was really glad that that was done. But now that we've cleared away all the leaves and the bushes, and there's nothing where anything can hide under, I've also ordered these solar powered kind of like sticks. They look like solar powered lights that go in the ground, and it emits like a frequency that only snakes can hear that tells them it's dangerous, stay away. So we've got a few of them to put in the garden, so that again, when the kids are playing and stuff, like they're just not going to come in. They're just going to stay out. I actually feel so much better since the pest control was done. Not seeing ants and different things around just made me feel more secure, more at home, because again, we're just not used to any of these things in the UK. Rental properties, they should be on top of the pest control. This last section of the video is to focus on childcare options, the schooling options, because let me tell you, it is so vastly different to probably a lot of other countries, not just the UK. It's crazy. Start off with childcare, early years childcare, for example, for Axel, who's 2. There is a childcare centre in Moora, and they're having a new building set up that should be hopefully done next month, but it's not finished yet. And that seems to be the only kind of option, other than I think some people are hiring au pairs and having live-in nannies and that sort of thing. But for like a childcare centre, this seems to be, I believe, the only option. And for the baby room and the toddler older room, they have caps on the numbers. So when we told people that we had Axel in daycare here, the response from the locals was, wow, you've done really well to get him in there, because the waiting list is full. What helped us get a place for Axel, I think, I didn't need certain times or days. Like, I don't need a full day for him. I don't need every day for him. If they told me they could only do one day, I would have been cool with it, because at least it was one opportunity for him to have to socialise and meet other people and to integrate into things, and also give me some time to do what I need to do. It is $133 a day for daycare here. We don't get the subsidy because we are on a 482 visa. You have to be on a permanent residency visa in order to get that. So we just don't qualify for it, which sucks, because coming from the UK, childcare is free from 9 months onwards. Like, we had Axel in 3 days and we weren't paying a penny for it. So coming from that was quite difficult. He is finding it quite difficult. He calms down the rest of the day, but the initial period, I'll be stood outside and he is screaming, hyperventilating. He keeps saying, I'm so scared, mummy, I don't want to be scared, I don't want to be scared. When we drop Ella off at school and we drive to the daycare centre, he's in the back of the car saying, mummy, I want to go home, please can we go home? And it breaks my heart, it really breaks my heart. And I know that if we just persevere with it, he is slowly at his own pace coming round to it. He's building up more trust with them, but initially he's really struggling. That's the thing, that's the only option that we have in our town. If I had other options, I would explore other options, because I don't know if it's just the fact that he doesn't want to be away from me, this move is everything, or it's the daycare centre that he doesn't like. I'm really not sure. We don't have any other options, and like I said, we don't have any other support around us, so we really do need to have these things, because I don't want Axel just being with me all the time. I need him to be out in the world and to build that independence and that resilience himself as well. With Ella, she is in year 1, so she's 6, she'll be 7 in September. She's in year 1, and the biggest thing that we have noticed, and that her teachers have noticed through doing the assessments at the beginning of the year, is that she is way more ahead of the kids here in her class, certainly, because in the UK we start a year earlier. The first week that we were here, Ella was doing a couple of different topics at school, and she came home and said, Mum, I did this in reception, which is kindergarten for Australia. And I talked to her teacher about it. Her teacher's like, we have definitely recognised that Ella is ahead of some of the other children. We're doing extra assessments with her, and we're giving her year 2 work in different reading books, etc. She got picked as the secret student at school, which is like following all of the rules, focusing on your work, being kind. Like, she got an award for that. She got picked for that. She got a merit for all of like her hard work and perseverance and resilience and everything. Like, she's doing amazing at school. She's just needing that extra step up from what the Australian curriculum are giving her age group, because of the fact that the UK starts earlier. I mean, we started year 1 with Ella in September in the UK last year, but year 1 in Australia didn't start until the start of February. So she'd done 3 months of year 1 to the UK standard, which would probably be year 2 standard in Australia, and then went sort of backwards a little bit. So thankfully her teachers have, recognised that, done the assessments, and they are giving her some extra work to do on top of that, so that she isn't taking a step back in terms of what she knows or what she's capable of doing. So that's just something to bear in mind. But I wouldn't say be concerned about it. Just talk to the school teacher about it. They do assessments, ask them what their opinion is. And if you feel like, for example, Ella's teacher has been brilliant with me, she gives her homework every week and she says, listen, if you think Ella's breezing this, tell me and I'll give her something else. So that it's just working together on these things that really helps. And her teacher has been amazing. Ella told her the other day that she thinks that she's the best teacher ever, which is the most important thing for me, that she enjoys where she's at. I'll park up on the curb and she walks into class on her own now. Whereas in the UK, it would be like I would drop her off and then she'd be upset when she went into school. There's just none of that here. She's so much more settled. She's so chilled. I think she's definitely thriving so much more in this environment. Any other mums that have noticed that, please let me know in the comments. What's your thoughts so far? If you're over here, what's been your thoughts on your children's schooling and how they are as their personalities and their own personal development? I would love to hear some feedback on that as well. I hope you enjoyed this video and talking all about childcare options, school, house life, culture shock. If you've got any tips as a viewer watching this for people who are making this move, pop them in the comments. Hit the comment section if you're a viewer, and honestly, it all goes off in the comment section. I love reading the comments on any sort of post. Share your advice, your tips. If you get any questions, again, that from me, if you're making this move, pop them down there and I can make another video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.